Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Welcome, friends. We're going to be talking about chord inversions tonight. Just a little bit of some of my favorite chord inversions. For this lesson, we're going to be talking about the ones in jazz that I tend to like a lot. Now, there is a PDF that goes along with this that you can download in the YouTube descriptions down below. There is a link for that. It's all free, and you can just download that as well. All right, so here's what are inversions. So take a look at the first page of that. Basically, here's the gig. Here's the deal. A chord is made up of several different tones. You know, let's say a C chord would be made up of the first, the third, and the fifth in the key of C, 1, 3, and 5. Well, usually we just stack those up on top of each other. But really, it's just any way that I want to combine those tones. If I want to have the C on the bottom, I can do it like that. If I want to have an E on the bottom, if I want to have a G on the bottom and stack the other notes on top of that, I get different arrangements of these notes, and that's called inversions. Now, we did a lesson prior to this last time that gave you a little bit of an introduction into this concept. So take a look. I've written some of the examples down there because some of you had asked me about that, so I wanted to write some of that stuff down. So take a look at that first page. And let's talk about some of the terms we're going to be using. Inversions is just we've got these tones that are in a chord, and no matter how many ways I can combine them or stack them, or as long as I have those chord tones, it becomes that chord. So think of it like crayons in a crayon box there. It doesn't matter which one I pull out first, as long as I have all of those three in it, it's that chord. Okay, so as long as I have, let's say, a C, E, and a G, it's going to be a C major chord. As long as I have maybe a C, E, G, and a B, it's going to be a C major 7th chord, no matter what order they come in, no matter what octaves they're in, no matter how many times you'll have 2 E's and 1 G and 1 C. As long as you have that combination of notes, you've got the chord. Now, these other variations of the chord are called inversions. So here's a couple of terms for you there. When in the business, when we say root position, that means the root of the chord, if we're in C, the C of that C chord is on the bottom, is on the bass, the lowest tone in that chord. So this would be a C in root position. This would be a C in root position. This would be a C in root position. All of these different voicings, but what do they have in common? The C is the lowest tone in each of these inversions. What about this one? Still a lowest tone is a C. That would be called root position. If I was playing an F and an F is the lowest tone, then that chord would be in the root position. Doesn't matter if I'm playing an F13th with a flat 5, doesn't matter about all that other stuff. If the F is in the bottom, it's a root position. If the root of the chord is in the bottom, it's called root position. Now, first inversion is a term you're going to hear as well. What that is when the third of the chord, let's say if I'm in F, okay, we've been in F, and I have the third of the chord in the bass, that is called first inversion. Now, it doesn't matter if the third's a major third or a minor third, or if anything specific is happening with the third. What matters is that the third is the lowest tone in that chord. Let me just double check the old tuning here. There we go. All right. So that's called first inversion. So this would be first inversion. This would be first inversion. This would be first inversion. This. All of those are an F in first position because the first inversion, because the third of the chord is the lowest tone in the chord. All right. Now the second inversion is when we have the fifth of the chord is in the lowest tone. So let's go back to the key of C, let's say. So if I'm in the key of C, I've got C, E, and G. If my G is the lowest tone, that is called second position, second inversion. Okay, first inversion, second inversion. Okay? So they sound a little bit different. Here's a C in root position. Here's a C with the third in the bass. Here's a C with a G in the bass. So they sound a little bit different. I'll try and make them as identical as possible. There's the C, root position. There's the third in the bass. There's the fifth in the bass. Now, if each one of these has its own characteristic of sound, the root position sounds very solid, sounds very stable. Okay, if I play a C, an F, a G, All of that sounds very stable because the roots are in the bottom of each of those chords. Now, if I play the third in the bottom, that's a C with an E in the bass, maybe an F with an A in the bass, maybe a G with a B in the bass. Okay, you end up with a chord that sounds very sweet, very melodic, because it has the third in the bass, the first inversion, okay? So just realize the different tonal characteristics of these. If I have the fifth in the bass, it still sounds like a C chord, but it's not as home bass as that, okay? It has the fifth in the bass, so it's still stable, but it's a little bit more muddy in that sense. Now, you just want to be mindful of what these different tones are causing to hear in the sound, and you can use those to your advantage to create some cool different progressions. So, all right, so let's take a look at this first little example here. If I have in the middle of page 1 there, I've got my C, E, and a G. Now, we've already talked about root position, first inversion, second inversion with the root in the bass, the third in the bass, the fifth in the bass. But there's also different ways of doing it. Like this, if I do a C chord this way, it still has the C as the lowest tone. That would be root position. This is the fourth example there. If I have the G in the bass there, that is the second inversion. And then if I have that third one there, I have an E in the bass. Those are good for when you're leading, let's say maybe to the 4 chord, or you're leading to another chord. That third tends to make the sound want to go to another chord. So if I'm having a C, if I'm going from, let's say, a C to an F, okay, if I want a C, then E in the bass, then to an F, that gives me a little bit more of a lift going into that F. So there's some ways you could use them. All right, take a look at the next one. Another term that we need to know is closed voicings and open voicings. So basically there's not much to understand there, but just a closed voicing means that all of the notes in the chord are going to be within 1 octave. They're all right next to each other. So like this is going to be closed voicing. Okay, so these are all right next to each other. This would be an open voicing. So now I put that E instead of down here, I raised it up an octave, and I have a wider voicing. It's called an open voicing. Closed voicing, open voicing. Okay. Now, and I can do open voicings in different inversions. So this is the root position. That's first inversion. That's second inversion. So you see how they're all C chord, but they sound different. So a C chord is more than just the Mel Bay. Okay, when he tells you that, yes, that's it, but it's also any combination of those tones. So anyway, that's the idea with that. Flip over the page, and let's get to what we want to talk about today. So in jazz, we can use these different inversions to our advantage. So in jazz, we tend to use a lot of 4-note chords, 7th chords in some variety, a major 7th, a minor 7th, a dominant 7th. So I just wrote a few of mine. This isn't an exhaustive list. This is just the ones that I tend to use a lot. Okay, so let's go to the key of F, and let's do an F major 7. Let's talk about the ones for an F major 7th, inversions. We're going to start off, this is my bass form. Okay, regular old 6-string root, F major 7th. I'm plucking the 6th string, and then I'm with my 1st, 2nd, and 3rd finger over here, I'm getting the 4th through the 2nd strings. So I'm skipping the 5th string and the 1st string. Okay? There you go. That's root position. Now, if I wanted to, let's say I've got to play that chord for a long time, a couple of bars or something, I don't want to just go like this forever. That's boring. So I want to create movement. One of the ways we can do that is by throwing in some inversions. So if I throw the F upper into the chord, and I put the 3rd as the lowest tone, the first inversion, I end up with an F major 7th that looks like this, which is the top line, the middle chord. So this is still an F major 7th, it just has an A in the bass. Sounds very different from this. Same chord. Okay, so I can get some good movement out of there if I'm doing a song. Each one of those has different things I could add to it. I can add different upper melody notes to it as well. So that's the first inversion. The second inversion is I'm going to do this. It's basically an F major 7th here, this inside voicing, but I'm going to throw a C in the bass. So I have my second finger on the C, first finger on the A, E, and A. Notice that all of these voicings of the chords are just using the 6th string, the 4th string, the 3rd string, and the 2nd string. It just gives you some options. When you're playing jazz. I'm supposed to have a rehearsal with a guy I've never played with tomorrow morning, and we're going to be playing some jazz tunes and hopefully be playing some gigs together in the future. And I'm going to be needing to use all of these voicings. Okay, so those are some ones for major 7ths. If I'm on a G, let's say a G major 7th. Now, don't get discouraged if it takes you a while to get the chord underneath your fingers. It's going to take a while to get the chord underneath your fingers. Don't give up with that. Everything new is going to take a little bit of time, so just spend a few days, a week or two, trying to get a new form underneath your fingers. Everybody always says, Steve, you know a million chords. No, I just know about 10 more than everybody else, and I use those to my advantage. Okay, so it's just knowing a few more versions of these chords that gives you some more options. So just do dumb little exercises like this of just jumping between them. These are just jumping through the ones in G. And then if I was an A flat, I would jump through them in A. These are A flat major 7th ones. Okay, so those are the major 7th ones. Now I have some minor 7ths and dominant 7th. There's basically three. The great guitarist, jazz guitarist Joe Pass talks about basically all chords can be boiled down into 3 groups: major 7ths, minor 7ths, and dominant 7ths. Doesn't matter what the chord is, he categorizes them in basically 3 different functions: major 7th function, minor 7th function, and dominant 7th function. So take a look at the minor 7th ones. Okay, so this is the second line. First, root position. Nice good bar there. We're back in F minor 7th. Now, if I go up to the first inversion, now I know what you're saying. You're saying, Steve, you're saying that this is an F minor 7th, but there's no 7th in it. It's got the minor 3rd, the root, the 5th, and then another root. You're right. It's a simplification of an F minor 7th. There's no, if I wanted a true minor 7th, I could do that, which is cool to do that. The reason I don't use that form, I mean, you're here, I'm here, we might as well learn. The reason I don't use that form is that sounds just like an A flat 6th. And an A flat 6th and an F minor 7th are the same chord. They're not like each other, they are the same notes. But somehow when I voice it like this, the ear tends to hear it more in the framework of an A flat rather than in the framework of an F, which is what I wanted to hear it as. So when I do this, I emphasize the roots, and that really helps the ear pop that, oh, I may be thinking of this as an A flat. Okay, so that's what I do on the flatted 3rd, the first inversion. The second inversion, I put the C in the bass, and you'll notice this is a F minor 7th, and then I just put the C in the bass. Now, there is I did a series on this, the Fretboard Workout series. I think you can probably find a link for it. Diane, maybe you can put that up. A Fretboard Workout series on jazz chords. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about jazz voicings and how to use them, check that Fretboard Workout series out. We have a trio that plays with me, and we teach you through all these different forms. So if you're interested, that's there. So in F minor 7th, if I go through the inversions with that one. Now, there would be one up here with the flatted 7th and the bass as well. What would that be? Maybe, which is just as accurate as these other ones. It just, the root flat 3rd and 5th seem to be the ones that you use more often. Now, if I did have the flatted 7th in the bass, that would be called the 3rd inversion. First, root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. Now, I didn't write it out because I hardly ever use that form. And again, I'm using the 6th, the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd. Gives you some options there. Take a look at the F7 ones. Just to give you something different, I thought I would do a little bit of a shell voicing, which is a just includes the root, the appropriate 7th, and the 3rd. So if we did it on F7, there's F7. Here is our same thing again. I've got an F7 with the 3rd and the bass, but you'll notice there's no 7 in it. It's just the root, the 3rd, the root, and the 5th. And there's the one, the 2nd inversion with the C and the bass. Again, I want you to notice that I'm playing the same, once I start with a string combination, this particular one has 6th string, 4th string, and 3rd string. I try and keep it 6th string, 4th string, 3rd string. 6th string, 4th string, 3rd string. That way I can kind of jump between them. So, if I was playing the song that I kind of opened up with, It Had to Be You, which is in G. Then it goes to an E7th. An A7th. That A7th goes for 4 bars there. In order to keep from just being bored, I just don't want to do this the whole night. So it helps if I can jump around. Okay. Then it goes to what? A D7th there. I'm just jumping through these variations of the forms. So that's all I wanted to show you this evening, is to give you some information and some chord shapes for you to learn in major 7th, minor 7th, and dominant 7th. That's a lot there. There's, what, 9 different shapes there for you to learn. And it's not too much, but it's enough for you to get underneath your fingers. And those are the ones I use a lot for jazz. There's a gazillion others. I'm not saying this is the only ones. This is the ones that I tend to use a lot. So there you go. We're going to be covering more of this stuff in the coming weeks. I'm going to show you some other inversions in different styles and things like that. But these work great for jazz. So I encourage you to download the PDF, try and experiment with these in various keys, and then pick a few jazz songs, maybe All of Me or Autumn Leaves or something like that, and start to experiment with these chords and see if you can incorporate them into your playing. Let me encourage you. Don't just read this and go, okay, I got that one. Okay, I got that one. Okay, I got that one. I got it. I got what Steve wanted me. No. You haven't learned anything. You just played these 3 little boxes, okay? Try and put them in a song. Try and do them in different keys. Try and start on the upper one, and then go to the 3rd, and then go to the root position. That's when you really start to learn them. Unless you can apply a concept, you're never really learning. It's just something that's going to end up in your notebook that you never get back to. Once you learn something, apply it. That's the key to keeping it in your repertoire. So, yes, these chords are all movable. So, according to the root. So, in these on page 2 there, these are all based around in F. So, they are all movable, but the root is shifting around. Here is the F. So, if I wanted to play this shape in an A flat, I need to put this up at the A flat, and then I've got an A flat major 7th. Okay. Well, what about here? What about this shape? Well, the root is now here on the 4th string, 1st finger. So if I wanted to put that in A flat, then I need to make this an A flat, which is here, and then I've got it there. Okay, well, what about the 2nd inversion? Okay, ooh, tricky. This one doesn't have a root. I dropped the F in this F major 7th, but you just have to remember that it's right there, even though I'm not playing it. So if I want to play an A flat, there's the A flat. And there it is when I do it that way. So yeah, each one of these is movable. You just have to pay attention to where the root is at. There you go. Learn all you can. Start to apply it. That's the main thing. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. We will see you guys in the next lesson.